Good evening, and thank you for taking your time to help our town plan for its future. My name is Bill Carlos. As a town board member, the town supervisor, Jay Baisley, appointed me to act as the chairman of the Town of Poughkeepsie Comprehensive Plan Review Committee. Let me take a second here and introduce the other people on the committee. Ann Shearson, who's also a town board member. Jeff Renahan, who's also a town board member. James Challey, Devon Lowe, Maribeth Rubenstein, Dan Salvatore, David Silver, and Carl Whitehead. The comprehensive plan is among the most important powers and duties granted by the New York State Legislature to a town government. It is the authority and responsibility to undertake town comprehensive planning and to regulate land use for the purposes of protecting health, safety, and the general welfare of all our citizens. Participation of citizens in an open, responsible, and flexible planning process is essential to the designing of an optimum town comprehensive plan. The adoption of the town comprehensive plan requires that all town land use regulations be in accordance with the comprehensive plan, and all plans for capital projects of other governmental entities on any land included in the town comprehensive plan, they shall take into consideration in their planning process our town comprehensive plan. This is a pretty important point for the future of our town. This evening is one of the ways that your Comprehensive Plan Review Committee is reaching out to you for your input into our planning process. Now, please let me introduce to you the Director of Municipal Development, Mike Welty.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate that. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for your time this evening. Again, my name is Mike Welty. I'm the Director of Municipal Development. Also with us tonight, Kristen Taylor, who's one of our planners for the town. And then we have our consulting team from Nelson, Pope & Voorhees, Adriana and Bonnie, who will be taking you through a short presentation. But before we get to the presentation, I just want to provide you a couple pieces of information. One, I think that's very important, is I want to acknowledge the grants that we've received from two entities. One is the Climate Smart Communities Grant Program, which is run through the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, and the other is the Hudson River Valley Greenway. And so funding from those two programs, along with town funding, has helped us to put the resources behind this important project that we need to hire our consultants and to help us with this project. In terms of tonight, there will be a presentation that will start in a moment. During the presentation, there'll be some poll questions that you can answer right there on your screen. And then later on, we'll be opening up the microphones to get some feedback on some questions that we have that are focused on primarily the vision and the goals for the plan, which is where we're at now. And Adriana and Bonnie will explain where we are in the process in a moment. There will also be opportunity at the end of the evening for more general comments. So if you had something that you came to the meeting with very specific that you wanted to talk about that maybe didn't fit in terms of the things that we're asking for feedback on, just hold on to those ideas, those questions, and then we'll get to them at the end. And also please note that you're going to get a follow-up email as soon as we're done tonight or tomorrow morning. It'll include some important links so you can get more information about this process and provide additional comments to us even after the meeting. All right, we really look forward to getting those. Lastly, there is a chat function you can see at the bottom of your screen, and if you would like to take advantage of the chat, please feel free to do so. Myself and Kristen will be moderating that. But I urge you to listen to the presentation. There's a lot of information there, and I think some of your questions may be answered right then and there. So with that, I'll turn it over to Bonnie or Adriana. I'm not sure who's starting. So
I'll start off. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Mike and Bill, for those great introductions. I would like to, start out by talking a little about the team. the CPRC, the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee, has been working on the comprehensive plan process since about 2018. And Nelson Pope and Voorhees and our sub-consultant, Mud Workshop, got involved in the late 2019. And we really brought in to begin to facilitate the public participation process and the drafting of the comprehensive plan. So we're very excited to get started today with this workshop to get your input. Although this is a little different from a typical in-person workshop, there'll be many opportunities for you to provide feedback as this process and the workshop continues. So we'd like to start off with a quick poll to get to know you. So, we'd like to find out of the people who are participating on this workshop this evening, what is your connection to the town? We're going to post the poll that you see on the screen for about 2 minutes or until we have roughly about 100% response rate. We will review the results once we hear back from everybody.
And the results are coming in.
Hey, I just noticed that as a panelist, we can't vote.
Oh,
No, we can't.
No, that's okay.
I made that conscious decision. All right. We're getting close to 100%. We're at 75% voting rate.
Great. And Adriana, just to let everybody know, they can just click on the boxes, correct?
Yes. A box should pop up on the screen that's separate from the presentation. That's the poll, and I'm receiving the results in real time at this moment. I will then end the polling and share the poll, and everyone will see the results pop up on their pages.
If there's anyone having a problem with the poll, it could be that it's hidden behind a page on the screen. If you move the screen a little bit, you might be able to see it if you're not seeing it.
I do want to point out that someone did raise their hand, but we're not. We're going to hold off on questions and comments at this moment because we want to move through the presentation. But please hold on to that question, and we'll get to you. Okay.
If it's an issue that you need help with, you can put it into the chat box, or I believe that there's a Q&A option as well. All right, so we're about at 2 minutes. We have an 85% vote rate. So I'm going to go ahead and end the polling, and I'm going to share the results. Can everyone see the results popping up on their screens? Yes.
So terrific. It looks like 75% of the people who are participating in this workshop live here. 64% of you shop here and eat here as well. And 58% of you receive services, whether it's healthcare, vehicle repair, etc., or you play and recreate here. And then 38% of you actually work in the town of Poughkeepsie. So that's a great representation for this workshop to get a sense of an input from you as participants.
Okay.
So with that, we're going to just provide a quick overview on comprehensive plan process, some of the basics. For those of you who are not familiar with comprehensive planning, we just want to provide you with a quick overview of what it is and why it's important. Then we'll actually dive into the process of developing a comprehensive plan. So the comprehensive planning process really answers 4 questions with regard to the town of Poughkeepsie. Where are we now? Where are we going? Where do we want to be? And how do we get there? And ultimately, the comprehensive planning process addresses the town's present state of affairs, the direction it's headed in, how the public and stakeholders want the town to evolve, and it provides a roadmap of how the town can achieve its vision, which it seeks to aspire to. So the process for a comprehensive plan, as Bill had pointed out, is set forth in New York State laws. And from a practical standpoint, a comprehensive plan is a document that guides the immediate and long-range growth, protection, enhancement, and development for a town by setting a vision, and then goals and policy objectives based on an assessment of the issues and opportunities that exist in the town and are confronting the town. Comprehensive planning is important for many legal and practical reasons. According to New York State law, your land use regulations, such as zoning, must be in accordance with an adopted comprehensive plan. So if there's an area zoned for residential use, it's because the adopted comprehensive plan established that that's what's appropriate for that particular area of town. Having a comprehensive plan encourages proactive rather than reactive policies and can help attract investment and support future funding. And then a good comprehensive plan makes expectations clear for all those involved in the land development and preservation process in the town. So in terms of the process for the town of Poughkeepsie and where we are at this point in time, there are a number of steps that need to happen, some of which have already occurred and are summarized in this workshop. Number one, establishing the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee. Number two, soliciting initial public input, which we'll get into. The CPRC has reviewed the 2007 town plan to assess what's been achieved and what is still relevant. A community survey has been developed to gather input on a wide range of topics. The CPRC is analyzing existing conditions, which has really been happening since the beginning of the process with the CPRC involving a lot of stakeholders to their meetings, as well as our firm preparing a summary of existing conditions, the state of affairs in the town today. We're determining the issues and opportunities which become the basis for goals and recommendations involving the public, such as at this workshop and future workshops, and preparing and adopting the comprehensive plan in accordance with New York State legal requirements. So we're going to move through these steps fairly quickly because we want your feedback on the proposed goals for the draft plan. So step one is establishing a comprehensive plan review committee. That committee was formed in 2018, and Bill did provide you with a list of those who are participating. It also includes the town's planning staff who are supporting the process, as well as the planners at Nelson Pope and Voorhees, myself and Adriana, who you see on this webinar, and Sachi Pandi, who is listening in and is going to be part of the workshops that follow. Before we discuss some of the insights that have been gained from the beginning of the planning process, we do have a quick poll question.
I forgot to add it, so I'm going to do that right now. Right. Okay, so hopefully it comes up here. Here we go. Okay. So, apologies for that. Oh goodness. Okay. So the question is, so in September and October of 2018, the CPRC held 3 workshops at different locations throughout the town. And this was one of the steps, step 2 of the planning process. So our question is, did you participate in any of those initial workshops in 2018? And we'll get into some of the kind of details of that as the poll continues. So the 2018 workshops started from a baseline. They asked about the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, which in the planning world we call SWAT. And to provide a summary of the outcomes, essentially, when looking at the assets, which are the strengths and opportunities, those who did participate thought that regional amenities such as health care, the rail trail, the educational system, the recreation system, shopping and restaurants were major assets for the town of Poughkeepsie, as well as the culture and history, which create a sense of place that residents and visitors really value. And then the concerns, the weaknesses and the threats to the town included congested roadways, a lack of alternative transportation infrastructure like biking and walking, a need for affordable housing, the shifting retail economy was a major concern, and also the fact that greenfield development was happening as opposed to focusing development on developed or vacant land. And then the fire department noted, and some other volunteer organizations did note that there has been a decline in volunteerism over time, and that was seen as an issue. So it looks like many of you actually were not able to attend those workshops, those initial workshops. So that means that your feedback today is going to be especially important. Particularly if you haven't responded to the survey yet, we're really looking for very similar responses. So that it would be really helpful if you guys could take the survey, and we'll get into that in a minute as well. So step 2 was initial community input. Step 3 was to review the 2007 plan. So in the 2007 plan, the town of Poughkeepsie embodied the principles that were really laid out in the Dutchess County Greenway Guides, which emphasize the concept of smart growth. And smart growth really emphasizes mixed uses, medium and higher density development that's focused to existing centers that have supporting transportation infrastructure so that the existing open space can be maintained and enhanced. So in the 2007 plan, this idea became the Centers and Green Spaces Plan, which is the map that you see to the right. And so it emphasizes, it shows where development should be focused. In general, the concept of smart growth incorporates ideas like mixed land uses, as we said before, compact building design, which then encourages open space preservation. Smart growth really focuses on a range of housing options, walk and bike ability and complete streets, a strong sense of place, that's called, the idea is like placemaking, which makes you feel like you really want to be in that place. Focusing development to existing centers is a main ideal of smart growth, and then having a variety of transportation choices, including buses, bikes, and trains. So choice is a really big kind of theme to smart growth. Another element or component of smart growth is related to walkability. Walkability, the sense of place, and the variety of housing choice all together kind of create this idea of complete streets. It's actually, New York State DOT has taken this on as an initiative and regulates that states with new and updated roadway projects must consider multiple modes of transportation in the design of their new roadways to the greatest extent possible. In Poughkeepsie, you can see some examples of that near Route 9, near Marist, and then on Raymond Avenue, those roundabouts across from Vassar, or within Vassar. Complete streets not only incorporate multiple modes of transportation, but also incorporate beautification of design, like planted medians, landscape sidewalks, and other measures that are considered traffic calming. They slow cars down because they're looking for people in a more pointed way, because it's a place where people might want to be. In Poughkeepsie, we're really thinking about ways that we can retrofit not only the existing roadways, but also underutilized sites that maybe used a lot of space for cars and are now trying to focus more on dedicating that space to people. And so to the public, we want you to kind of start thinking about places in the town of Poughkeepsie that you think might be good places to start filling in roadways and adding bike lanes and things like that, if that's something that the town of Poughkeepsie is moving towards. So this illustration is like one of my favorites from the Dutchess County Greenway Guides. It provides a really good illustration that shows how existing development like the kind found in Poughkeepsie, this kind of strip center, this illustration actually looks exactly like Route 9 a little bit, can be redesigned into a walkable neighborhood. So the first picture shows that typical strip development. where parking areas are built right up to the roadway. Even with sidewalks, it's not really a pleasant place to be walking. So by incorporating street trees and building a few nicer buildings kind of towards the front of the, towards the roadway, closer to the road, it gives kind of more of a sense of place. It makes people feel more comfortable walking around that area. Then as you continue through the development process, you start filling in more along the road frontage, adding landscaping, turning parking areas into more walkable areas to get from point A to point B. And then of course, incorporating a mixed residential gets people to simply walk across the street to these new amenities right next door. So you can read more about the 2007 plan by going to the link at the bottom of this page. We will also be sending you an email full of links at the end of this process. You know, if you're interested in the 2007 plan itself, that can be found on the town website, which we'll again send you.
So the next step in the process has been to develop a community survey. After having reviewed the 2007 plan, the committee really wanted to go out to the public and determine whether the ideas in that plan that do focus on smart growth are still relevant today. The CPRC wanted to ask you about your thoughts, your opinions, your observations about the town, and developed a series of questions which were put into the survey. The CPRC essentially wants to understand who spends time in Poughkeepsie. And this includes details like your age, your occupation, and what you do here when you're in the town. Other questions relate to housing, such as, is existing housing stock in the town appropriate for the people who live here? And is it also appropriate for the people who want to live in the town? Other questions include information and questions about the parks. How are the town parks used? Do they provide the right mix of facilities? What kind of preservation or recreational needs do residents, visitors need? What kinds of new commercial development should be encouraged? What do you think is missing from the town? Are there particular uses that you think would be beneficial but aren't present here in the town of Poughkeepsie? And then how do residents and visitors see the town? What are its assets, issues, and what's the vision for the future? So ultimately, this plan is your plan, and so your input is extremely vital. And we will be posting the survey link later for everyone to take an opportunity to respond to it. So to date, the survey has been in circulation since March of 2020. And we have received about 665 responses, which is an excellent response rate in our experience. But we certainly need as many as we can get, and we're hoping that all of you who are participating in the workshop will take the survey if you haven't, and then please share the link and advertise its availability to everyone you know so that we can increase the response rate. In terms of just some highlights as to the preliminary survey results, most respondents so far have been between the ages of 40 to 70 years of age. 81% of those respondents are town residents. Most of the respondents have lived in the town for 15 plus years, although 25% have lived in the town for 1 to 10 years. And we really appreciate getting that age segment and that demographic profile to have a sense of, again, what the newer residences want and need in the community. About 37% of respondents feel that the town needs more independent senior housing, and single-family homes and mixed-use development tied at 27% in terms of what people think are needed in the community. In keeping with the 2007 plan, we have found that the majority of the respondents use support infill development and adaptive reuse of historic buildings. As part of the survey, we did ask all the people who took the survey, well, what are the things that you love about the town of Poughkeepsie? And they have ranged far and wide, but there are some clusters of area that you all agree upon. And that includes assets such as the Hudson River, its convenient location. Restaurants and shopping was mentioned quite a bit in the survey responses. The historic character of the town and green space and recreational opportunities such as the trail. And then you also mentioned each other, that you enjoy your neighbors and your community. So those are all positive aspects and things that you love about the town of Poughkeepsie. So again, we could really use your input. Again, we strongly encourage everybody, if you haven't taken it, to please take the survey. It will be available until Sunday, July 12th. Please share it with anyone you know, especially those who live in Poughkeepsie, who come to Poughkeepsie to recreate, to shop. It doesn't take that long. It's a few minutes to fill it out. As well as please visit the Facebook page, which the CPRC has set up. It will provide you with information on the next workshop events, information that's being posted on the town's webpage. The existing conditions report is noted. Just it's a source of information for you as a community who want to keep tabs on where we are in the process.
Right, so throughout this process, we've also been assessing the existing conditions. This helps us to understand the where are we now part of the comprehensive plan. So I'm going to launch another poll, and we are wondering, of the topics on this list, what are your top 3 priorities or interests? It seems like nobody is responding. Oh, there we go. Everybody was so quick to respond to the last one. All right, we're at 38%. I'll go ahead to the next slide. It's just the poll question. And you can choose, your top 3, you can choose all that apply on this. Okay. Seems we've slowed down a bit, but I'll give you guys a little bit more time. All right. We're at about 78%. Okay, speak now or forever hold your peas. All right, I'm going to end the polling. Okay. So it looks like most people are very interested in parks and recreation. A lot of people are interested in land use and zoning. After that, community services and facilities, and it looks like natural resources and open space are both tied. And then transportation and demographics, and then utilities. Okay, so that's just helpful for us so we know kind of what how to flesh out our ideas and thoughts and make sure everybody is hearing the things that they want to be hearing. So I'm going to stop sharing. All right, and we'll move on. We're going to move through the existing conditions kind of major topics.
So the existing conditions report is posted on the town's webpage, so you can see really in detail all the information that's been gathered to date, and this is a brief summary. First, we start with demographics. We want to understand and get a sense of where the town's population is today relative to the region and trends since the 2007 plan. And we typically obtain this data from the U.S. Census Bureau. Since 2007, the population has increased slightly in the town. The average family size has increased slightly. The percent of households that are considered family households has also increased. And the median age has increased, which is a pretty common trend nationally given the aging of the baby boomer population, which are the persons who were born between the years 1946 to 1964. So overall, the town really is a very stable community. In general, the town is more diverse than the county in terms of its population. And again, looking at the demographics, we know we are planning for a slightly older generation. And there may be more young families moving in as aging residents downsize. There is, we believe, a desire for some of the residents who are aging in place that want to downsize may want to have housing here available to them in the town of Poughkeepsie. It also shows that we've heard about the need for housing diversity, which is consistent with the census data. So that is something that's coming through the survey and through the existing conditions analyses. In terms of economics, oh, sorry.
Sorry, I'm trying to move it. It's not moving. Oh, goodness.
There you go.
Get it? Okay.
I got it. So of the residents in the town, approximately 9% fell below the poverty line in 2016, which is down from nearly 11% in the previous year, which is a good trend, of course. As of 2016, there's an additional 30% of households that also fell under United Way's ALICE criterion, and that is an acronym for asset limited, income constrained, and employed. So there are households that are falling both above and below the poverty line that require financial assistance, but may not be eligible for public aid. So presently, the average worker in Poughkeepsie would have to earn an additional $300 per month to afford a fair market rate 2-bedroom apartment without being rent burdened, and nearly $1,000 extra to afford a 4-bedroom apartment. So again, we encourage you to check out these trends and this data that are contained within the existing conditions report. In terms of employment, while Poughkeepsie was home to a large IBM presence with manufacturing as the major employment sector, we note that the largest employment sector in Poughkeepsie now is education, healthcare, and social assistance services. So these facts are being considered in the planning process. And again, employment, factors into housing needs, factors into other community service needs. So we look at this all holistically as part of the demographics of the community, and again, where you are now and where we anticipate you to be into the future.
Okay, so in terms of the environment and the natural resources that exist in the town obviously is defined by several major water bodies. The western boundary of the town is the Hudson River estuary. The Falkhill Creek comes down from Hyde Park and out through the city of Poughkeepsie with a pretty significant floodplain and wetland area in the town of Poughkeepsie itself. The Casper Creek kind of cuts the town right down the middle almost, runs the entire length of the town. And then, of course, the Wappinger Creek runs well beyond the entire length of the town, but does culminate on the shores of the town of Poughkeepsie. So from our research and from a really useful study by Hudsonia, we learned that there's a real strong relationship between undeveloped areas in the town and a rich habitat. The other important observation that we found is that the town of Poughkeepsie contains critical environmental areas that were designated by Dutchess County, which are all categorized under the threat to human health. So critical environmental areas are a state designation that a town or any other community can, any other municipality can do that requires that the impacts of potential developments on or adjacent to a critical environmental area be studied under the regulations that implement the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEQR. And that's a process that's triggered anytime a development proposal comes before the planning board. So many communities find that designating CEAs is valuable when there are important resources that they want to protect. The regulations that allow for a CEA to be designated describe CEAs as anything that fits under the category of being a benefit or a threat to human health, a unique natural setting, agriculturally, socially, culturally, historically, recreational, or educationally valuable. And so some examples of neighboring critical environmental areas include the aquifer protection area in the town of Fishkill. Wappinger Lake is a critical environmental area in the village of Wappingers Falls. And in the town of Hyde Park, they have several CEAs that include Hogback Hill, Indian Kill, and Vanderburg Cove. So the neighbors to the town of Poughkeepsie are designating CEAs based on their unique natural resource importance and their natural setting. And we think that the town of Poughkeepsie has a lot of valuable natural areas. But unfortunately, the CEAs that are within the town are mostly generally landfills and kind of contaminated sites that should be flagged as a threat to human health. And those are the purple hatches. So one thing I want to run through quickly is this Hudsonia study, which was really interesting. So the next series of maps show how the combination of 4-acre zoning, agricultural and vacant parcels, wetlands and floodplains, which tend to limit development, and protected lands actually contribute to important habitat areas in the town that the town itself seems extensively developed. And what we're looking at here is large contiguous habitat complexes. They're important because they provide habitat for a wide range of animals. And there are some endangered and critically protected species in the town of Poughkeepsie that you can read more about in the section. So the darker the color, the more valuable the habitat patch, the larger the habitat patch is. So you can see that between Salt Point and Van Wagner, there's this huge area that is farmland, it's floodplain, and it's Peach Hill Park right up here. So it's really interesting just to see the connection. So that's the one in the north. Of course, along the Wappingers Creek, if you follow the Wappingers Creek, especially where the floodplains are, you'll see that those are typically darker patches of habitat value. You have Vassar Farm and Locust Grove, and Casper Kill, the former Casper Kill Country Club Golf Course, and a large vacant parcel to the south of that as well. And then in the south, Bodwin Park is consistent, again along the creek. There's that golf area, and believe it or not, around the quarry seems to have a pretty good habitat patch, probably because you want a good buffer around a quarry anyway. So that was natural resources. Then we get into parks and open space. When we're looking at parks and open space, we note that the town of Poughkeepsie has a recreation department that handles the programming, maintenance, upgrades to the town parks. Dutchess County also maintains 2 parks. Those are Bodwin and Quiet Cove. And then there's also open space that's maintained by institutional organizations, like Vassar Farm is maintained by Vassar. Locust Grove is a nonprofit organization. And then we also note that 2 new developments, Hudson Heritage and Eastdale Village, have parkland as part of their plans, but those are not shown on those maps because those have not been officially dedicated or captured in mapping. So Hudson Heritage is this parcel up here, and then Eastdale Village is this parcel over here. And you can see that there are actually trails proposed in conjunction with those developments as well. A major asset we've heard from a lot of people, of course, is the Dutchess Rail Trail, which runs through many towns and is a really important asset, is managed by the county. The CSX Rail Spur runs from the city of Poughkeepsie north to Hudson Heritage. That is in process right now of just, the feasibility is being studied, but that is an existing trailway. It's an existing, railroad. And then there's a short little mile-long trail, again, to the rear of the Wappingers Creek and along the Hudson River down here. That's being provided in conjunction with development.
Adriana, can you hear
Yes.
me?
Yes.
It's Kristen. So I just want to make a quick announcement for folks on the line who might be wanting to use the chat function. Just to make it very clear that when you're submitting a comment in the chat, if you could please make sure to select all panelists and attendees when you submit your comments. It just allows for a more visible conversation to occur. And this way, you know, folks are only seeing responses coming back from myself and Mike or others, and we want to be able to include everyone in on seeing the comments and questions. That's it.
Thanks, Kristen.
Thanks.
With that, I'm going to touch upon historic resources. We have been evaluating and identifying the location of the various historic resources within the town of Poughkeepsie. Historic resources are really integral and important to community character, and they really provide Poughkeepsie with its own unique sense of place. Examples of National Register sites: there are 25 buildings listed on the National Register of Historic Places. That includes buildings such as the main building of Vassar College, Locust Grove, as well as historic districts such as in the historic hamlet of New Hamburg. It's important to know that being on the National Register will not protect a building or a district in and of itself. To do that, the local community really has to take action and pass laws that allow it to designate local landmarks. And importantly, the town of Poughkeepsie has done that. It has a Historic Preservation Commission and laws which allow it to protect its important historic places. The group that does the process of reviewing any alterations to these important historic landmarks is the Historic Preservation Commission. They designate the local landmarks and they review the alterations, any proposed demolitions or removals of these structures and historically significant sites in the town. And one of the members of the CPRC, Yvonne, is on the Historic Preservation Commission. So again, Poughkeepsie is an older community, has a lot of historic resources. 11 of them are locally designated. However, there are many other buildings throughout the community that are historic and that the Preservation Commission continues to work toward landmarking and ensuring that they get preserved.
Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about community facilities. Many of you probably know that the town is split into 4 school districts: Hyde Park, Arlington, Spackenkill, and Wappingers. We've noted them on this map. Across the board, the school districts attended by town of Poughkeepsie residents have seen declining enrollment over the past 5 years, with Arlington Central School District, the largest of them, seeing the sharpest decline of 9% over the past 5 years. But we just want to note that this may be a natural fluctuation given the distribution of age groups within the area. As empty nesters are downsizing, young families will likely be moving in, and enrollment trends may shift again towards that full capacity. So again, when we look at land use, we're looking at the community facilities in the town. So education consists of 7.9% of the town area. That includes K through 12 public and private schools and the colleges as well. And in the town of Poughkeepsie, we have Vassar, Marist, and Dutchess Community College. Public and quasi-public uses are things like churches, cemeteries, cultural institutions. You can see that Locust Grove, again, is blue on this map. And government land, including the libraries. And then healthcare uses are about 1.9% of the town, and those include hospitals, nursing homes, and veteran care. So you can see on this map, and again, this map is in the existing conditions section, and there's a full write-up on community facilities in the existing conditions chapters that you can look at.
So just a quick shout out to Anne, who, as I mentioned, local landmarks are continuously expanding and there are now 16.
Oh,
So thank you for that. In terms of transportation, again, another important area to evaluate in the town, we need to understand the capacity of the roadway system, the bus transit, the rail system, to understand what can be accommodated in the town if the town does consider new land uses or changes in density, where they happen and how the roads can handle them. And essentially transportation really involves exploring how we move people and goods through the town. So the transportation patterns have been evaluated. One such example is the map that you see here to the right. It shows the average annual daily traffic volumes for the major roads in the town. New York State DOT does traffic counts on those roads, and that's where we get the data. And it should come as no surprise when you review the existing conditions report that, clearly Route 9 is the major transportation arterial to the town. There's not as much east-west access and thoroughfares, except for 44, 55, and Spackenkill, and that has implications for travel patterns within Poughkeepsie. In general, according to U.S. Census information, the average commute time for people who work in various locations, workers from the town of Poughkeepsie, is 26 minutes. 74% of you drive alone, and 50% of residents live less than 10 miles from work, which is actually a terrific statistics that you work locally. And then 23% of you actually live more than 50 miles from where you work. So there are some commuters that are going to more distant population centers, employment centers to work, such as a Danbury, White Plains, and even going down into New York City, of course. The next slide shows public transit routes within the town. The town is blessed with the county's public transit services, and there are bus lines that travel up and down the Route 9 corridor that circulate to places such as the South Hills Mall. And this has implications for development and redevelopment of the Route 9 corridor for things like transit-oriented development, where housing and mixed uses may be placed together that benefit from proximity to these public transit services. There are 2 Metro North rail stations that serve the town, one of which is located in New Hamburg, so it's in the town proper. The other station, while serving the town, is located in the city of Poughkeepsie. In general, in consulting with Metro North, we have found that the weekday ridership levels have increased by about 400 trips per day. Another important mode of transportation that we always seek, especially when it comes to complete streets and having a robust transportation system with different modes of travel, is to ensure that there are trailways and sidewalks serving the community. And of course, as Adriana had discussed, really one of the most important resources that has been developed and expanded since 2007 is the Duchess Rail Trail, which has major implications for, again, transit, alternative transportation modes, and connections throughout, especially northern part of the town. The town and county are also evaluating that conversion of an old CSX rail spur into a trail. And then sidewalks and trails, again, are part of the infrastructure of the town, and the town is constantly evaluating where it's appropriate to enhance pedestrianism. And there are some proposed improvement plans for adding additional sidewalks where they're appropriate within the community, and those are listed in the transportation section of the existing conditions report.
okay. So a major component of the existing conditions research is looking at how land is used in the town and how that land is distributed throughout the town. We are also looking at how those land uses relate to the zoning districts that they're in, and that helps us to understand if changes are needed, if they're consistent or not consistent. So you can see from this map that the distribution of single-family homes is in the light yellow. And that's about 78% of the total parcels and 34 or 35% of the total land area. Two-family homes are slightly darker, and there's really not many of them, honestly. I can't even point one out to you on this tiny map. Multi-family units or apartments, those are 3-family and apartment units. Those are generally clustered a little bit closer to the city of Poughkeepsie, a little bit more to the north. But there is a good mix. There is a mix of housing at the moment in the town of Poughkeepsie. What's interesting to me is that the residential land uses in Poughkeepsie make up a large proportion of the tax parcels in the town, but not as much as the land area. So that shows that the town of Poughkeepsie, their residential character is generally medium density, and most of the lots are less than 1 acre. If you had a 1-to-1 ratio, you'd be looking at a more even split here. So that's just important to keep, that's just interesting to keep in mind. Then when you look at non-residential land uses or commercial land uses, you can see that that proportion completely switches. 2% of the total land area is dedicated to offices, but only 0.6% of the total tax parcels are dedicated to offices. About the same of land area and number of parcels are dedicated to auto uses. Those are things like gas stations, car washes, car dealerships, things like that. And then industrial and manufacturing uses include the quarry and IBM. And that takes up 8.6% of the land, the total land in the town of Poughkeepsie, including some of these other sites, you know, around these areas, these purples. But they only constitute about 0.2% of the total tax parcels in the town. So again, interesting just to see how your land use shakes out. It's also interesting to look at your commercial corridors. They call them commercial corridors for a reason. Your red is the office, business, retail type uses along Route 9. And then, you know, in the Arlington Business District, Raymond Avenue, and then the Home Depot area in the Fairview neighborhood.
So with that, to kind of put this all together, we go back to the 2007 plan. And the 2007 plan, as Adriana had explained, was really grounded in the concept of greenways and town centers. And the CPRC is reviewing and reevaluating these locations. In the left hand image, you could see what came out of the 2007 plan and where they were recommended. And then the right-hand map shows where the zoning, which are the land use regulations for the town that indicate what is allowed in terms of development and land uses, shows where those town centers ended up geographically. So again, the purpose of the town centers is to concentrate development at nodes, either existing, so where there's existing development, or they could have been to create a new town center in an undeveloped area. And when town center zoning was adopted after adoption of the comprehensive plan, the development density within those areas that were identified as town centers was increased. And areas outside of the town centers, in the more greenbelt areas, outlying residential areas, were zoned so that the density was limited and decreased. So that was the balance that was achieved in the town centers and greenways approach. Again, this was to maintain centers and then to protect green spaces. There are other ways to protect green spaces, and as we continue through this process, we are again reevaluating the location of the town centers, whether they've been successful, and how green spaces can continue to be preserved as a goal. In terms of the centers themselves, we have kind of broken them out in terms of the ones that are located to the north and the ones that are located to the south. And the northern town centers include the Fairview Town Center, which is intended to contribute to the historic revitalization development district, which is essentially the Hudson Heritage Project. The Salt Point Town Center, which is at the corner of Innis and Salt Point Turnpike. the Arlington Town Center, which is really where the Arlington Hamlet is, and then McDonald Heights, which is now the location of the newly constructed Eastdale Village. So the Fairview Town Center, you can see the plans and the schematic that was done in the 2007 plan on the left-hand side, and then you can see the zoning district boundaries on the right-hand side. And again, Hudson Heritage, that project has really been folded in, and the Psych Center is now connected into what is ultimately intended to be the Fairview Town Center. And again, town centers with the intent of accommodating a lot of development and mixed-use development within the community.
You can also see the location of the proposed rail trails.
Right, that goes north-south through it, so that's the CSX rail spur.
You can see it here as well.
So McDonald Heights Town Center, this has come to fruition. It is a traditional neighborhood development built in a traditional village style. And importantly, within this town center, the rear portion, the easterly portion of the site along Wappingers Creek has been set aside for a town park to serve that area of the town. The Salt Point Town Center has really not yet been developed. Right now it's a mix of a variety of different uses, but a large portion of the land that's included within that town center is actually within the 100-year floodplain that covers a good percentage of the area. You can see it in blue on the map. And so, this is one that we're evaluating in terms of whether this still makes sense for a town center, or is it more appropriate to be rezoned to other uses. The Arlington Town Center is really your Arlington neighborhood, your Hamlet area, and it's the existing developed area within the town of Poughkeepsie that you're really all familiar with. And there's new development and infill development that's regularly occurring here. And one of those examples that you can see in the conceptual rendering is the former Arthur S. May School, which is proposed for redevelopment. So, it is occurring within an area that's intended to accommodate additional infill development within this Arlington Town Center. It's zoned for that purpose. So in terms of existing town centers, there are additional ones to the south that include the South Hill Center by the mall, Crown Heights, and Red Oaks Mills. And so if we look at the South Hills Town Center, again, that is a zoning district that overlays on top of the shopping centers there. And it has been repositioning itself over time to incorporate additional buildings in a street-facing development pattern, as you can see from the aerial. And if you recall the image that Adriana showed on the screen earlier, it's that slow evolution from going from a kind of a strip development where the parking's in the front and the shopping's in the back, slowly infilling with some additional buildings, and then long-term introducing mixed-use and residential housing to these already developed sites in order to limit development that happens on greenfields. It is in a location along Route 9. It could lend itself to transit-oriented mixed-use residential commercial type development. But of course, that's all contingent upon improvements, making sure that Route 9 can handle additional traffic, as well as making sure that other key services can serve the South Hills Town Center site. The next town center location is Red Oaks Mill Town Center. Again, you can see the zoning on the right. It is along Wappingers Creek. And it's kind of a collection of neighborhood, retail, smaller shopping centers in that area. It's off of Route 376 and Vassar Road, where a small cluster of these services already exist. There is some area that potentially could be infilled, but frankly, this area is not sewered, and that limits really the size and the type of development that could occur there. So there's the potential for some additional development, but again, part of the existing conditions evaluations and where the CPRC goes with the plan has to consider all aspects that play into whether these areas can evolve and develop. And of course, central to that is utilities and availability of sewer and water. The Crown Heights overlay is located along Route 9. And there has been some new development that's been facilitated. Bounce trampoline studio, gravity vault, indoor rock climbing gym. There's a Dunkin' Donuts there. But there's opportunity still that exists for some infill development and potentially some road improvement. So again, this is just another of the town centers that were designated based on the recommendations of the 2007 plan, and which the CPRC is now evaluating as to its appropriateness and what can be accommodated there.
All right, so we've reviewed existing conditions, i.e. where are we now? And so through the survey, we've begun to determine issues and opportunities. And this step helps us to determine where are we going. So a basic assessment of the survey results to date show that issues may include, as we've discussed, infrastructure and town roads, affordable housing, traffic issues, the quality of sidewalks, not enough open space, and the vacant and abandoned buildings. And I did not go through this text in much detail, but you'll notice that the word abandoned, vacant, and abandoned is mentioned a few times. So clearly we're on a path here with the infill concept. We've seen a lot of strengths in the town as well. Interestingly, some of them overlap between strengths and issues. But in particular, people identified the strengths of Poughkeepsie as the community, local restaurants, the Hudson River, diversity, accessibility to regional amenities, the schools again, open spaces, the rail trail, and the historic sites. So throughout this process, public participation has been and will continue to be very important. We have the survey out now, and we'll provide a summary of the results on the CPRC website once we close it in about a week and a half on July, what would we say, July 13th or 12th. We also have 3 workshops planned. You're at the first one, but then we're looking at holding a design-focused workshop that will look at kind of the location and future design of future town centers. And then the last one will be to gather input on the recommendations of the draft plan. There's also an opportunity to provide public comment before the town adopts the plan through the formal public hearing process.
So with that, that's really provided you a synopsis of where the CPRC is today, having gone through the steps in terms of understanding the 2007 plan, getting some initial input, developing a survey to further provide input to the CPRC in terms of where it's headed with the vision. And we're really now at the step of drafting the plan. The vision, the goals, the recommendations are the most important part of the comprehensive plan. And again, even though we've listed 7 and 8 separately, step 7, the public participation, is actually ongoing throughout the plan drafting process. And that's why we're having this workshop this evening. So we're going to get really into the participation part of this workshop. And the next few slides rely on your input. And they're going to be incorporated and considered as part of the overall comprehensive plan document. So essentially, the next few slides discuss the overall vision statement for the town. And the vision statement is like a mission statement. It's a guiding statement or a philosophy about the future growth and preservation patterns for the town of Poughkeepsie. And to accomplish this vision, the CPRC is drafting goal statements, which are really future-focused statements of what Poughkeepsie will be in the next 10 to 20 years. In the blue bubbles, you'll see that there's some very preliminary ideas for recommendations, which would be specific policies and ideas or actions that would be pursued to achieve the goals and this overarching vision. So again, first we're going to focus on the vision, and we're actually going to read the vision statement as it's drafted now. And then we're going to have an opportunity to provide input into what you, as the attendees, think about the statements that are part of this overarching vision statement.
Okay. So the vision for the town of Poughkeepsie is the town of Poughkeepsie is an established, family-oriented, vibrant, and diverse Hudson River community, strengthened by its history, attractive neighborhoods, and long-standing historic educational institutions. In the next 10 years, the town will revitalize, redevelop, reconnect, and redefine what it means to live and work in a 21st century Poughkeepsie. The town of Poughkeepsie will pursue a sustainable future by protecting and enhancing existing natural resources, encouraging alternative transportation and complete streets, and focusing on redevelopment of its transportation corridors and the preservation of its remaining open space and agricultural land. The town will enhance and diversify the local economy while preserving precious and important open space by incentivizing mixed use, walkable development in areas that have already been developed, such as brownfields and gray fields. The town of Poughkeepsie will be a community where people can afford to live and work, where on and off-street trails and sidewalks connect neighborhoods with important amenities and with each other. So for the next 4 slides, I'm going to break down the vision statement into kind of bite-sized sentences, and we're going to send out a poll question for each of those bite-sized questions, asking you to agree or disagree with the statement using the poll. And so the options are going to be I agree, I disagree, or something is missing. If you choose something is missing, feel free to tell us what you think it is in the chat box. But again, let's not use the chat box for like back and forth conversation. Just keep it to what you think the issue is. When we get to goals, there will be an opportunity for everyone to speak, and we'll discuss that in a minute. So start with part 1. Vision statement, part 1. You should all see the poll coming up now. The town of Poughkeepsie is an established, family-oriented, vibrant, and diverse Hudson River community, strengthened by its history, attractive neighborhoods, and long-standing and historic educational institutions. In the next 10 years, the town will revitalize, redevelop, reconnect, and redefine what it means to live and work in a 21st century Poughkeepsie. So I see that the responses are rolling in, which I love. And I want to move a little faster through these because it'll take a while if we give you 2 minutes each. So I'm just going to give you a minute. Okay. All right. So we're about 71% voting rate. I'm going to go ahead and end the polling. Speak now or forever don't answer this question. Aha. Okay. Sharing results. So the majority of people agree. Some people feel that something is missing. Very few people disagree, but there are some people who are here today that do disagree. So I'm looking forward to reviewing the chats and discussion later, and you can feel free to expand on this when we do have our opportunity to share. Okay, so statement number 2, the town of Poughkeepsie will pursue a sustainable future by protecting and enhancing existing natural resources, encouraging alternative transportation, and complete streets, and focusing on redevelopment of its transportation corridors and preservation of its remaining open space and agricultural lands. All right, and we've got the voting going.
I'm looking at a second clock, Adriana.
A second clock?
Seconds that have gone by.
Ah, yes, 34. All right, and we're at about all right. Okay, I'm going to end the polling here. Again, many people, oops, sorry, share results, there we go. Again, many people do agree. Some people think something is missing. I saw some chats related to renewable energy infrastructure. And so when we talk about sustainability, maybe expanding the concept of what a sustainable future looks like in terms of energy use and production. So that's good to know. Okay, and then we will get to number 3. So the third part of the vision statement is that the town will enhance and diversify the local economy while preserving precious and important open space by incentivizing mixed use, walkable development in areas that have already been developed, such as brownfields and grayfields. All right, so we've got polling moving along. Okay, we're almost at a minute. Okay, I'm going to end the polling here. Okay. I'm having trouble keeping up with the chats, but I didn't see too much to support that something is missing. But it looks like there's a little bit more of a divide on this one. So I'm interested to explore that when we're able to chat a little bit more later. Okay, and the town of Poughkeepsie will be a community where people can afford to live and work, where on and off street trails and sidewalks connect neighborhoods with important amenities and with each other. So that's the last element of the overall vision statement, keeping in mind that each of these sentences are part of an overall vision. All right. We're at 65%. If you haven't voted, please do so. All right. We're at 71% have voted, so I'm going to go ahead and end the polling here. Okay, and again, we have, this one is again a little bit more split. It's a little more of a nebulous vision statement. One of the comments is, I think if afford to live and work implies affordable housing, it should be more explicitly stated. So that's good feedback. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to move on to goals, and Bonnie is going to take it from here with the goals.
So we are going to start going over the draft goals that have been put together so far for the comprehensive plan. And while we've included some general ideas for recommendations to achieve each of these goals, they are preliminary and they're being vetted by the CPRC, which is why they need your input. For the next 7 slides, we want to know how you feel about the goals themselves. So you can agree, you can disagree, or you can agree with modifications. And then if you have any ideas for how to achieve these goals through actions, it would be useful to get your input on that. We'll post a poll for the agree, disagree for each of the goals. And then we're going to open it up for discussion. So please feel free to raise your hand and then we will unmute you, or you can use the chat box to provide feedback, which we will review separately. So please keep your comments, if you are going to comment, to about a minute or two, because we want to hear from as many people as possible. So the first draft goal is agriculture. And it states that the town desires to promote sustainability and food security by preserving and promoting a diverse agricultural economy in the town. Existing and fallow agricultural land should be preserved to allow for continuation and growth of agricultural production in the town. Locally produced food is more sustainable, less costly, and supports the local economy. Transportation and environmental costs are high for foods that are imported from distant regions in other countries, consuming large quantities of fossil fuels. So do you agree, disagree with this goal? Is something missing? And then we're going to open it up. Again, you can raise your hands or you can provide us with chat and we'll have a discussion about this particular goal.
I'm just waiting to share the poll until we get to about that 70 sweet spot. All right. Okay, I'm going to end polling. All right, so the majority of people agree. Some people feel that something is missing from this. We'd like to hear from you guys if you have any ideas of how to clarify this goal or how to actually achieve this goal, and you can gather some inspiration from these recommendations below. In order to be called on, please do raise your hand, and then I will allow you to talk. So Dan Salvatore, I'm allowing you to talk. I'm not sure. It looks like you're on mute. Okay.
Adriana, Dan is one of our comp plan committee members. Maybe he had a question or issue before.
Right. Okay. Wanted to make sure, so I'll disable talking. All right. Okay. Jeff Anzavino, you're on. But you gotta unmute.
Dan,
Jeff,
did you still have a question?
Jeff, did you want to speak?
We don't see your hand raised anymore, but and you are unmuted.
Okay. Well, I'm just
Oh,
gonna...
he's on. He says I'm on a phone line.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh, weird. Okay.
star 6.
So is it...
Star 6 is to mute, is to unmute.
Well, now I gotta allow him to talk, though. I have to find him again. Okay, here we go. Allowed to talk. Okay.
Star 6, Jeff.
But I don't know why he's... I'm not seeing a phone number.
There
Did
we
that
go.
work?
That worked.
Okay. I turned my phone off so it doesn't echo, I hope. I agree with that 100%. But you might want to add that find a way to allow farm stands so people can sell the food and have some provisions to allow some limited and sensible solar production.
Mhm. Thank you. Okay. Jennifer Burke, you are allowed to talk.
Thank you again for this really important work and for the workshop. Well, the nature, the kind of format of statements. So I agree with the that is in them. But missing for me is sort of the responsibility of the town as sort of one of the CS or the, you know, that I don't know what is stronger, but of all the towns surrounding us, we are one of the resources in our population and with our business and surrounding towns. So what's missing for me is sort of the values of responsibility to the region as part of the town's plan. That economic
So I'm not hearing Jennifer very well. Is that the case with everybody else?
Yes, that's the case.
In fact, we can't hear you anymore, Jennifer. I think you're in a bad spot, or your sound is very tinny and breaking up.
Okay, so all right. So Dan, did you still have something to say?
No, I was good, Adriana. I didn't have a question.
Oh, okay. Your hand is raised. That's why I was wondering.
Oh.
All right, cool. And I will do that. Okay. So, Michelle Gluck, you are unmuted. Or
Hey, can you hear me?
yes.
All right. Yeah, thank you. As others have said, I'm really happy to be here tonight. I just have a quick comment. Just for the last sentence of this goal, I was just thinking of a way to make it more goal-oriented, or instead of stating, you know, the issue of turning it into a part of the goal. So that's just a comment I had.
The bolded part is intended to be the bulk of the goal. And the additional text is just providing some context.
Context. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Caroline Fenner.
Hi there. I just wanted to emphasize how important it is that we start to get a composting program going in the town of Poughkeepsie. If we are asking ourselves and promoting the sustainability and food security by preserving and promoting a diverse agricultural economy, we cannot forget that composting is one of the most important ways to make agriculture, anything that's basically planted, more healthy, full of nutrients and carbon, which are critical resources for the environment and for human health. And we're sitting on literally all this, you know, unnecessary trash that people throw in their garbage cans. It's food waste. That can be used by the community, by community farms, by people in their houses to garden. So I really think that's the number one thing we need to think about adding to this particular draft goal.
Thank you.
Looks like Jennifer asked if she could be,
Yes.
try again. Yeah.
Yes. Hi, Jennifer, you're back on. And you're muted.
Star 6 if you're on the phone.
It's pretty spotty.
Sure, I think I fixed it. It says you're at full connection.
Oh, that's a little bit better. Give it a try.
Okay, so maybe it's the mask. Why don't I take off my mask for a minute? Is that better?
Much.
I'm so sorry. There are people near me, but I'll face away. Try not to. What I did last time is I walked away, and then I walked out of Signal. So basically, what I'm looking for is, I love what you have so far for the vision, but there is something missing for me, which is a sense of duty to the region as the town with the most resources in the area. So given the extreme disparity between Poughkeepsie's town and city, and between region and the town,
Jennifer, you gotta go back towards Signal. Wherever you're moving, go back towards the Signal.
I'm sitting, is that better? I'm sitting perfectly still.
There,
All right. Unless you can hear me. If you can hear me, I'll continue.
Right now, we could hear you.
Okay. So I'd like to see the town's visioning include a sense of values and duty to the region and to economic fairness and accessibility for other people for people in the region here in the town. That I think the town has priced and we as a town have a duty to make our schools and our apartments more within reach. So I worry that the poverty line has gone down in the town just because we've priced everyone out. So I would love it if our visioning could also include not only what we want for ourselves, for people who are already here, but also concern about our values to make our region a better region, right? Because while the city is suffering, in a way it hurts the town and also the people in the city. So that's basically what I want to say. And I'm so sorry about my connectivity. I'm really sorry that it was choppy. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Okay, and I have someone named Owner. If your name is Owner.
That's me. That's me, Bill.
All right.
Okay. The question was about the draft goal for this agriculture.
Yes.
So I think the whole part where it starts off with locally produced food is more sustainable. The way I read it would be locally produced food is sustainable, perhaps more quality, and it helps the local economy. Everything after that should be thrown away. On transportation, all that blah, blah, should be all got rid of.
Okay.
And I can justify my point of view, but I don't, that's where I am, okay?
Thank you.
All right.
All right, I don't see any other hands. Maybe we want to move on to the next goal?
Yes. All right. So the next goal.
The next goal is to protect and enhance the health of the existing ecosystems in the town, particularly along the 3 major creeks, their floodplains, riparian areas, and associated wetland complexes. And again, you can see a hint of the preliminary recommendations in the blue bubbles below it. Just in terms of critical environmental areas, some sites that could be considered would include Vassar Farms or Wappinger Creek or significant habitat patches, just to kind of clarify that one bubble. But again, please let us know if you agree, disagree, or if something's missing from this draft goal, and then we can open it up to discussion.
All right, we're at 44% of the attendees have voted so far. About halfway there. Okay, we're at about 75%. I'll give you guys a few more seconds. All right, I'm gonna end polling. Share. All right, so we've got some stuff missing here, and I'm going to allow Doreen to talk. Doreen.
Hi, this is Doreen Tignanelli. Yes, I was on the town's Conservation Advisory Commission for 12 years and was instrumental in having the wetlands ordinance passed for the town in around 2005. And as part of the 2007 comprehensive plan, we were promised that the town shortly after that would look into revising the wetlands ordinance and improving the buffers, which are absolutely pitiful. When you have a wetland of up to 5 acres only getting a 25-foot buffer, that's really no protection at all. So that never happened. And again, that was 2007, and here it is 2020. So I would like to see the town's wetlands ordinance updated to do something to better protect the wetlands through protection of associated buffers. And also, I'd like to see some more discussion about tree protection. Tree protection is not just for habitat, but it's also great for helping with stormwater, air quality, water quality. So there's a lot more that needs to be done as far as protection of natural resources.
Thanks very much. Does anybody else have a comment on this? All right, Jeff, I'm allowing you. And you're muted.
Am I there?
Yep.
Great. I was really impressed by that earlier slide that showed the large connected areas of habitat connectivity, and perhaps you just might add areas of habitat connectivity to the other elements you have there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Okay.
A number of good suggestions in the chat as well, talking about the Hudson River estuary, adding that to the list of important water bodies, others as well. So we are getting those chats, so thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, guys. All right. Jeff, is your hand back up? Okay, if you want to speak again, let me know, because I just took your hand down. Okay.
Our next draft goal, to reconnect to the Hudson River. So here's the poll. And the goal is that the town of Poughkeepsie is fundamentally defined by and historically connected to the Hudson River. The river is an amenity that is underutilized as a result of the limited direct access to the riverfront. The town seeks to reconnect physically and visually to the Hudson River as it lends the town its unique community character. Do you agree with this goal? Please fill out the poll.
Goal poll. We are almost to 50% response rate, and you guys can feel free to raise your hands if you have any comments or want to fill in what's missing, or if you have any thoughts about how to achieve this goal.
I'll just add that as we get to the end of the workshop, we will open this up also just to general questions and comments. Right now we're focusing on the goals, we focus on the vision, but there is, again, additional opportunity at the end of the slide presentation.
All right, we're at 77%. If anybody else has anything to add, you do. Okay. All right, Michelle Gluck, you are on. Did you have something to say?
Yeah, sorry, I put it in the chat, but I figured I'd say it too. The only thing I would be maybe to incorporate the tributaries that are in the town as well somehow.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I really
suggestion.
So, thanks.
Anyone else? I see another hand.
Oh, thanks.
I see a hand, Carlos Garcia.
Okay, you are unmuted, or, yep.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I just think in this context that sporting is an interesting aspect to add to this. And it was the comment about the tributaries that made me think of this. You know, I'm aware that Wappinger Creek is a treat stocked with trout. And I think it's a great asset both for tourism and local recreation that could really increase the attractiveness and maybe even traffic to local businesses.
That's a really good idea. Thank you.
Good comment.
All right.
All right, moving on to draft goals, complete streets and trails. The town will continue to pursue an interconnected and multimodal transportation system of trails, sidewalks, streets and rail systems, and promote complete streets, which are designed and operated to enable safe use by pedestrians, bicyclists, motorists, and transit riders of all ages and abilities in their needs to get to and from homes, schools, shops, and jobs. So here you'll see the poll. Please respond. Would love to hear from people about their thoughts on accessibility.
Yeah. We're at 66%. If you have any comments, go ahead and raise your hand and we can access. All right, we're about 75%, 77. So I'm going to go ahead and end polling now. All right. So some of you thought something was missing. If you guys have any comments to that effect, please let us know. But I'm not seeing any hands. So.
Yep, any ideas as far as where you think there should be enhanced sidewalks, thoughts about access to the rail stations, the ability and location of sidewalks, safety concerns?
I saw some comments that 376 is a bike route earlier.
Yes, I saw that as well.
I find that surprising because that's not the most bike-friendly road. More pedestrian accessibility is needed based on economic trends. Not everyone has access to cars, nor can they afford the railways. That's very true. Yep, safe routes to school. There are no sidewalks, bike paths at all used in the roads to New Hamburg, to the New Hamburg train station. So access to the New Hamburg train station is definitely a thing I've seen a couple of times here. Yeah, Route 9 south of Wilbur Boulevard is tricky. Backenkill and Boardman Road from IBM to Vassar, and perhaps then a crossing backside of Vassar, yeah, would increase connectivity greatly, yeah, for sure.
I mean, think about your neighborhoods and think about, you know, are there places, are there locations and destinations that you'd like to be connected to, you know, that you could walk to or use some alternative means of transportation?
Right, well, Wilbur Boulevard, there's a big rec park there. And there's a lot of housing out that way. And so having sidewalks would be, you would think would be very important. There is like a little trail along the side. But yeah, Boardman Road and Spackenkill Road both need sidewalks, yep. Okay, I'm gonna allow to talk.
There's some more comments that came in.
Yep, and I have, I'm sorry, I forgot who owner is.
Okay.
Bill.
Ms. Bill, we're coming up on I'm sorry, but we're coming up on a end time for me. They're going on for almost 2 hours. I want to make a comment about the vision at the beginning. The vision statement was very good, but then you went on to say, redo this, redo this, redo this. I think you should get rid of it and say the vision statement basically is that we plan to continue with these features or these qualities in the future for the next 10 years and not add in all that redefine, reroute, or whatever it is. Thank you very much. It's been helpful, but I have to log out. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Okay. Might be a good idea.
More comments have come in.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit in the chat. I don't know if
Yep.
you want to move on to the next.
Yeah, let's move on.
All right. Keep those suggestions coming.
Yes. So draft goals, brownfields, and infill development. The goal is to discourage new development from the remaining greenfields in town and redirect growth to underutilized or infill locations that are already developed and have access to transportation, utility, community facilities, and other infrastructure in order to promote sustainability. Do you agree with this goal? And again, just to remind people, infill development is development that can occur in underutilized, already developed areas. Brownfields are typically areas that may have a need for remediation that could be cleaned up and used for alternative purposes.
What we're showing in this picture is the Duchess Plaza off of Burnett Boulevard near the old Arlington Middle School. That's been vacant for quite some time and has some development barriers, shall we say. So we're trying to think of how we can encourage these more challenging sites to be to have an interest for developers to have an interest in these. Lowering the barriers to getting these sites utilized, because the barriers to utilizing green space is quite low. For reference, the term BOA, B-O-A, is the Brownfield Opportunity Area. It's a grant program that's run through the state I just saw something about daylighting the Casper-Kill. That has come up in our discussion as well, because the Casper-Kill flows through this Duchess Center. And has this huge floodplain, natural floodplain, but right now it's quite channelized. So the BOA program, Brownfield Opportunity Area Program, is a state grant that provides opportunities for communities to do very focused planning exercises around brownfields and underutilized sites, and it helps them. It can help to kind of show, much like a comprehensive plan shows the trajectory of a community, a BOA can help show what the future of a site could look like. So I forgot to end polling. I apologize. I got carried away. I saw a question about what daylighting is. So a lot of times creeks and streams get channelized and they end up flowing underground in pipes. And so the concept of daylighting is to actually open that back up, bring the water body back above ground, and allow it to come back to its natural flow regime in terms of and basically naturalizing it, bringing it back.
Yeah, one of the great examples is right here in the Hudson Valley down in Yonkers. If you haven't, yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. So do we have any thoughts on brownfields? I'm seeing a lot of comments. I can see everybody's on a roll with comments, which is that's great. Just be looking everywhere.
I see questions about or comments about the daylighting.
Daylighting. People like the idea of daylighting the creek. All right. landfills are an excellent location for community solar projects. That's very true. And that's something we've discussed not only in terms of brownfield and infill development in terms of landfills, but also the concept of expanding pollinator habitat and meadow habitats on landfills. And that was a recommendation of Hudsonia, actually, when they did their 2008 study where all of those kind of brown blobby maps came from. Okay, so
our next draft goal updates centers and green spaces. This plan seeks to update the 2007 Centers and Green Space Plan through further evaluation of the centers, location of the centers, and desires to encourage infill development within already developed locations in the town. So again, you've seen this theme. It's been expressed throughout the presentation. It is a Dutchess County Greenways concept. And let us know if you agree with this goal or if you disagree or something's missing, and then please feel free to provide your comments.
and if you have a thought about the centers that we presented today, if you feel any of them should not be centers, or if you feel that other areas could be centers, we're looking for input on that as well.
I think conversely, if there's areas that you think should be green spaces and remain green spaces, and feel strongly about that, you can also provide insight.
We only have a few more goals left, so I thank you guys very much for your attention, and I can see that the chat is going well, which is good.
But you can talk to us as well if you like.
Yeah. If you want to raise your hand, we're happy to turn it back on. It's hard to have a balance, but again, thank you for bearing with us. The northeastern part of town, Plan B, Peach Hill, and other sites should be protected from overdevelopment. Salt Point Town Center should be scaled back or removed due to the floodplain. It takes some imagination to think of South Hills Mall as a town center. It's a great idea, but would need some work. Affordable and multifamily housing and transit seems central for those ideas. I think we on the planning side would absolutely agree with that. There, you can't just put an apartment building on the South Hills Mall site and think that it's going to be self-sufficient.
Like the Spack and Kill and Route 9 are an important center.
Yeah. They connect the Greenway to Locust Grove, Vassar and Boardman Road. That's a good thought, yeah. Slowing traffic on Route 9, making it bikeable is also a good goal. Yes, and people seem to agree with that.
Did the poll close, Adriana?
Oh, I apologize, I got carried away. Here we go. All right. So some people think that something's missing, but I think we're getting a lot of really good feedback.
Right.
Right.
People think it's missing, so we're 92% agreed, so that was great.
Yeah, and we only have 2 more goals left. So
here we go.
Here we go.
Historic, scenic, and cultural resource preservation. Town will continue to preserve its significant historic, scenic, and cultural assets to preserve and enhance the town and neighborhood character, promote neighborhood pride, and foster a strong town cultural identity among generations of residents for years to come. Preservation of these resources also will promote place-based economic development and conserve natural resources through reuse of existing structures and buildings. I know that someone earlier talked about the need to refer to reuse of existing structures and buildings, those that are historic, and that is incorporated into this particular goal.
Okay, and we are at 40% voting response.
We're still getting a mix of chats about different goals, so that's great. You don't feel that you have to stick to this particular goal. If ideas coming to mind, just share it because all of this is being saved.
One comment is to emphasize Native history more in the town, which I think is a beautiful idea. There was a working farm at the Salt Point Town Center back in the day. The committee has a goal to increase and preserve green space and farmland. That area has proximity to the rail trail and Fallkill Creek. Yeah, so that's an interesting solution to that area, actually. Could be more of a kind of historic park of some sort.
The next one is interesting. Restrong town cultural identity.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
I do see a hand up.
Hey, Jeff. Okay, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. I haven't heard a lot about New Hamburg this whole time, and I think there are a couple of small historic districts in New Hamburg, and
There are.
yeah, I just want to make sure that doesn't get overlooked, and you might want to. I don't know if there's anybody from New Hamburg Neighborhood Association participating, but I hope they will, and maybe consider a critical environmental area around that very historic and intact hamlet.
Very good. It is identified in the existing conditions report. And in fact, we have looked at the zoning, and we think there are some adjustments that need to be made to make sure that the zoning doesn't have unintended consequences, and that the buildings that have been identified as historic are in fact preserved. So yes, we definitely have honed in on the New Hamburg area because of the historic districts there. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Very robust conversation going on in the chats. Thanks, guys. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing the results here, and we're going to go on to our
last goal. Here we are, folks.
Great job.
That goal: community facilities, utilities, and amenities. Poughkeepsie residents, businesses, landowners, and visitors are serviced by a comprehensive system of community facilities and services which collectively improve the quality of life in this community. Besides town government, services are administered by various districts, including school, fire and ambulance, and several services are provided from regional agencies such as state and county roadway maintenance. The town will continue to ensure that all persons are served adequately by programs and facilities which are considered essential to the town. Do you agree with this goal?
All right. So we've got the poll up.
Jeff, I don't know if that was Freudian. Great to see my fiends in New Hamburg here.
Oops.
Community centers in the lower part of town, right? Good point. Jeff says, I'm the king of the typo.
Kudos to the town historian.
Interesting. Sharon Phillips says it's difficult for the Spackenkill Fire Department to legally access Spackenkill Road going east in an emergency. Oh yes, and there is no Spackenkill Fire Department. That is one of the volunteer fire departments, I believe.
It's part of Arlington.
Right. Either way. Okay, so 80% agree with this sentiment. 6 feel that something is missing. I'm not seeing many comments to the effect of what might be missing. Does anybody have anything else to add to that? Okay. All right. Well,
Thank you.
thank you
That
all.
was our vision and goals portion of the workshop. And real quickly, we're going to summarize some next steps for you. Number one, we're going to summarize results from this workshop, and it will be posted to the town website and to the CPRC Facebook page, so you have opportunity to look at either of those sites. The survey will be open until Sunday, July 12th. Again, we can't impress upon you more to please take the survey if you haven't. Whether you work here, you visit here, you recreate here, you live here, please take it and share it with all the people you know. The survey results will be summarized and posted to the town website and CPRC Facebook page. CPRC will continue to meet. Check the website for upcoming agendas and minutes. They are open to the public. And then stay tuned for upcoming workshops. We will have another. We will be flexible as far as how they're held and what the subject matter will be. But again, please stay tuned. Keep your eye out on the Facebook page and the town website for the posted meetings. There are minutes posted there. It's a great resource to get additional information on this process.
All right. Mike, do you feel that we have time to open it up for questions or comments?
Yeah, I mean, I think let's give it a few minutes more. I know we started about 10 after 9, so, you know, we can maybe keep it to another 10 or 15 minutes, not longer than that. I think, you know, that would be fine.
All right. So Lauren has her hand up. You are unmuted.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. I'm a fairly new resident. I moved here about a year ago, and I'm 30. But what I've noticed, and what my neighbors are telling me also, and someone just mentioned it in the comments, that people are kind of aging out, and a lot of newer people are moving here. I know I spoke to my neighbor, and he was telling me that his realtor is telling me, oh, you got in at a good time. Like, a lot of people are moving up here. So I just think it's really important to mention that I think it's important for you guys to reach out to, since we do have a lot of colleges in the area, it's important to reach out to them, because I was reading briefly the 2007 comprehensive plan, and it seemed like a lot of people came here for college but didn't stay. So I feel like we kind of need to tap into that and find out why these younger people are not staying, because especially now I moved here because there are so many good things happening here, and it's only expected to get better. So I just wanted to mention that I think it's important to tap into that resource and that great resource that we have of all these colleges in the area, and kind of find out why these students aren't staying here. And that might help also develop new goals also.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right.
Jeff?
Okay, Jeff, hang on, I'm just gonna allow, oh dear, oh dear.
Oh, no.
Oh dear.
Did you disconnect him?
You just
I didn't mean to. I
He'll call
accidentally.
back in. Oh, there he is.
There he is. I see. Wait.
Okay. Hi. Can you hear us? Or can you?
Unmute, Jeff.
Okay, there I am.
Go.
Okay, now I understand. I've got to you unmute me, and then I unmute me.
Yes.
I just say quickly, just to echo my comment, this has been so well run and productive. We always wonder what's going to happen in this era of COVID, and we can't have public meetings. This really shows that the consultants and the town planners know how to engage the community and get a lot of input in this very new way during these challenging times. So kudos to everyone. What I wanted to suggest, it hasn't been covered. I think it's kind of a new territory for a lot of us. And it's very big. For those who don't know me, I'm here representing Scenic Hudson. We are really, at Scenic Hudson, doubling down to do everything we can to make sure that the region's diverse population is represented, and the things that Scenic Hudson does, especially in cities like Poughkeepsie and Beacon, don't lead to gentrification and unintended consequences of increased housing prices. So I just want to see if there's anything you guys are doing or suggest any outreach in Spanish language so that the Spanish-speaking residents of Poughkeepsie know that this process is going on and know that they're welcomed and that their input is desired.
Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome.
Right.
How about Jacob is new. That's a new name.
Yes, I'm going to allow Jacob. You are enabled.
Thank you. Yeah. I just wanted to sort of echo some things Jeff just said, but then also expand and also echo some things that Jen said. I appreciate all the thought that went into all of these goals. And I feel like additionally, it's important to think about, as Jen said, redistributing resources that the town has and the unique opportunities that the town has to other areas, specifically the city of Poughkeepsie. And, these are our neighbors. These are people that work in the town. And just because they don't, their properties or where they live don't fall within the boundaries, they, have a different school system. Or various other, opportunities are not afforded to them. And I think that, in addition, I really like what Jeff said about, adding Spanish to a lot of the advertisements for what's going on here, like in these meetings, or adding Spanish in other public settings to, take into consideration the sizable population of people in the city of Poughkeepsie, and then increasingly in the town that speak Spanish much better than they do English. And then, just going back on, affordable housing, I would really hate to see affordable housing developments that are not actually affordable. That's something that's happened in the city where I grew up, where we have people coming in to develop because there are special incentives for them to develop affordable housing, and then they develop this housing that is actually doesn't meet the needs of any of the existing low-income residents. And so I think that it's about redistributing resources and then also making it possible for more people to live in the town, or opening up what is in the town and inviting people in. I guess that's sort of a broad way to end it, but I know I've taken a while. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, Doreen. I've enabled you to talk.
Hi, okay, thank you. So yeah, just to follow up on that, one of your slides said that 47% of renters are rent burdened. And I've been talking about this at town board meetings a lot. A lot of the developments that are being approved in the town, some of these apartments are starting at like $1,400 for like a studio apartment. And, the average person just cannot afford what some of these rents are being charged. So, I understand that people say that they want to, attract people from the New York City area up to here, but we really need to be providing also for people who are here. And a lot of the people who are already here cannot afford a lot of the rents for these new developments that are being approved. So I think you really need to consider affordable housing, and affordable housing means different things to different people. But again, to me, when apartments start at $1,400 for a studio, that doesn't seem to be very affordable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will note that in the survey, there is a question about what the responder or respondent thinks about affordability and what the price point is. So again, just a plug to please take the survey so that you can give us our thoughts about affordable housing and other topics. And share it with people that you know have this interest in communicating about housing.
Okay, any other hands?
One, Jennifer Burke.
All right, Jennifer, you are enabled.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
At the moment.
Okay, that's kind of harsh. I'm trying so hard here. You know, because I'm with my family and a friend, we're outdoors to be safe. And that makes it a little harder to get the signal. So these are the few points I want to make. For future workshops, would it be possible to advertise them with lawn signs, like that you could put at the walkway and in front of grocery stores and where people go that might not already be on your Facebook or that, you know, involved in town planning in any way? So lawn signs, I'd be happy to take a bunch and distribute them and help put them up. And then the second thing is some of the ways that this affordability and economic equilibration could happen. Jen, could you walk with? Would be, I talked to a consultant who has worked for 40 years in affordable housing. Hold on one second. Let me just take care of that. I'm talking in front of the whole town. Lovey, do you want to help? Come sit on my lap. I'm trying so hard. Town of Poughkeepsie, I'm trying so hard. These meetings are a hard time of day for my kids. So I to someone who's devoted her career to developing affordable housing about how it is that a town like ours could move towards some of these goals of economic fairness. And these were the 4 points that came right off the top of her head, and I just want to share them publicly. One was, when you develop affordable housing, make sure that there's no local preference given because it becomes discriminatory to people who can't already afford the town. Maybe give a regional preference. She said increase the commercial tax base so that the residential rate can stay the same or go down to make it more affordable for people to live here. Look into New York programs with down payment assistance and publicize them so that, and second mortgage assistance for for homeowners and first-time homeowners. There's all sorts of programs the state has that the town could promote to make the town more accessible. And finally, when there are building projects, make sure that there are workforce and occupancy goals both for social diversity and for women as to who's working on those projects and who is, you know, able to live in those places. So just, I'm very interested in what are the specifics that we have to do as a town to enact a vision of responsibility to our region and to economic fairness and accessibility. What are the practical ways to reduce barriers? I have a friend who has wanted her daughter to get out of the city schools for a long time, and every year she looks for an apartment in the town, and every year they're too expensive. And she has the money for a down payment, but the taxes are prohibitive, and it's heartbreaking. Her daughter's going to be in middle school very soon, and she really wants her daughter to be in the Arlington schools. She has 2 older siblings who are both finishing college at good schools, and it's impossible for her as a single mom with a deceased husband to afford it. So I think there's very practical ways that both with I love Jacob's comment about Spanish and these meetings, but also just to make sure we have people here at these meetings who know about these meetings, who represent not just the people who are already kind of activists with the town. So again, I'll end with, if you get me the lawn signs, I'll help you distribute them to the supermarkets and parks and such in the area. Thanks again for doing this. It went so well. So democracy. Once we come back to in-person meetings, please continue the Zoom factor, because I think democracy is way more in because of Zoom. Like this chat and these meetings online make it possible for way more people to attend. So thank you again. Okay, bye.
Thanks very much, Jen.
Thank you.
Maybe that would be a good point to just, I think we have one additional slide, right, that shows some of the ways to stay in touch over the...
Yep.
Yep, there it is. All right.
All right, and so we will be sending you all an email that will contain all of these links so that you can access all of these amazing resources that we've been talking about. And we have a lot of comments to go through, and we will review the recording of this and talk about it at our next meeting. And just stay tuned for upcoming workshops and share the survey in the Facebook page.
Mike,
That's big stuff.
Mike,
Yes, Bill.
we're gonna close it down at this point,
Yes. Yeah.
right, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, thank you for your time. Thank you for your comments. Please don't stop. Use email. Go the old way, write me a letter, call me on the phone. We are looking for as much input as we can. We want to make it as accessible as we can to get the information from the people. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming here and sitting with us for a couple hours. And I think what we've just gone through should be a clear example to you how your town government wants to work for all of you. Thank you very much and good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for your input. We appreciate your attendance. Have a great night and stay safe.
I'm gonna end the meeting so that it ends all of this, okay?
Okay. Good
Bye,
night.
guys.
Good night, all.
Bye.
All right, thank you.